Let the record reflect Lori Dudley is absent this evening, and Tom Prinz is also absent. Recognition of visitors and guests, I've received no recognition items. We'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 1.4 correspondence recognition. I've received no request for public participation and received no recognition of students or staff or community for this evening. 1.43 is presentation by Spencer Winnicky, Learning Center Principal.
Thank you for allowing me to come to present to you tonight. We did just wrap up another successful session of summer school throughout our district. So I'm on slide 2. We have several programs going on throughout the district. Anywhere from our kindergarten transitions program for incoming kindergartners to the district to our targeted services, which is grades 1 through 8. We also have our extended school year, which is run through our special education department. Perfect. And then we have our 9th grade transitions program for our incoming freshmen. And then last but not least, we have our 10th through 12th grade summer school at the Learning Center. Here's a breakdown of our enrollment. This is not exact, I want to be very clear. We've had to change some of these numbers because of students that may be down here on this 10th through 12th grade summer school. We've had students that squeaked it out in the last week of the quarter and don't need all 3 courses, so then they're not enrolled in 3 courses or 2 courses or 1. Or your targeted services, we may have had students that couldn't attend due to vacations. So this is approximate. We had approximately 275 students in grades 1 through 8 in our elementary and middle schools. We had 25 students in our 9th grade transitions program, and we had 190 students in our Learning Center summer school program. I did put that little piece of information there for you. In our in our summer school program, we do have students that are attending from other districts that also need credit recovery. So they, they are also in the total number of our 10th through 12th grade enrollment for a total of 490 students served during summer school. That is a great number. The length of summer school. So we had summer school from June 10th through the 28th. We had it in several different buildings throughout the district. The Learning Center is in charge of our targeted services, so our EDGE, our 9th grade transitions program, and our 10th through 12th grade summer school. We had grades 1 through 4 at Prairie Elementary. We had grades 5 through 8 at the intermediate school. Typically, we would have that at the middle school. However, with the construction, we did not have it there this year. Our 9th grade transition is housed here in the high school, and then our 10th through 12th grade summer school is housed at the Learning Center. We had summer school for a total of 14 days because we do not have school on the Juneteenth holiday. Students in grades 1 through 9 attend school for 5.5 hours each of those days. And then your 10th through 12th grade credit recovery, it totally depends on what the student needs as far as credits. We offer 3 blocks each day for summer school. So those blocks are 2 hours long, and each block is worth a half a credit, so 1 class. So they can earn a total of 1.5 credits. So they could be there for 2 hours a day to 6 hours a day, depending on their need. Moving to our targeted services, to give you a little information about our targeted services. All of our students in grades 1 through 8 have their core classes of science, reading, and math. But along with that, we do have elective courses that our students rotate through. So at Prairie, we had outdoor STEM, Phi-Ed, music, art. And then at the intermediate school, we had Phi-Ed, health, and then agriculture. Also in their day, they have other enrichment activities. We have several of those activities, including, you have your counselor-led social emotional learning. We had a newcomer program for English learners that are new to our country. We had field trips to many different areas throughout the area, including what I have listed there, like the Historical Society and Laura Ingalls Wilder. And then we also have interventionists at Prairie that work to bridge some gaps in skills for our math and reading. Before I talk about 9th through 12th grade, I do want to remind you of a couple things about credits. Every high school student needs to earn credits in order to graduate high school. On the bottom, I have that we as a district require students to complete 30 credits towards graduation. Each class here at the high school is a half credit, and at the Learning Center as well. But summer school looks a little different. For 9th grade transitions, students in 9th grade transitions can earn a quarter credit in each of their 3 classes. And then at the Learning Center, they can earn a half a credit per class that they take throughout summer school. We can turn to the next one, and I'll talk about 9th grade transition. Ready? Our 9th grade transitions program is held here at the high school. Our 9th grade transitions program is for 8th graders coming into 9th grade. They take 3 courses. They take a math elective, an English elective, and a general elective class. In their English and math elective classes, they work on skills to make them successful here at the high school at their intro level courses. In their general elective class, they do things like social skills. They work on study habits. They learn about the mental health resources not only in our building, but in our community. They learn about the logistics of the high school. So they get to see the school when it's not so crowded. They get to learn about schedules and how to earn credits, counselors, administrators. They had speakers come in. So they had speakers from Kivu Law. They had Mr. Hastings and Mr. Brands come in. They had Surrey from Creative Healing Space. So they had a lot of opportunities to hear from several different speakers. And then also they did take a couple educational field trips on Fridays to different businesses and post-secondary educational institutions throughout the area. And that is on this slide here. And we can go to the next one. This is our 10th through 12th grade courses. These are what we offered. I broke it down for you by content area. As you can see, we were able to offer a lot of classes for our students. There are required courses in here, but also elective courses, because students not only need required courses, but they also need elective courses as well. I won't go through all of the courses as you have them there, but we were very thankful to be able to offer all of these opportunities to our students. Here's a breakdown of the staff that we had for summer school. We had 37 teachers in grades 1 through 8 with 20 educational assistants helping them out in the classrooms. We had 3 teachers here at the high school. We had 13 at the Learning Center, and we had 3 administrative support staff that helped out. Myself as the principal, and then Katie Peterson as our targeted services coordinator. For any teachers or educational assistants or support staff or custodial staff or kitchen crew, just on behalf of us at the Learning Center, we want to thank you for what you have done for our kids and providing these opportunities for them. It was very successful. At the conclusion of summer school, we had 19 kids graduate, which is a good number to see that we're continuing to graduate students. Of that 19, one of them was from outside of our district, so let's just look at the 18. Last year at this time, the board was presented with the option to change the policy from students being able to walk The previous policy was being within a half a credit, and we changed it to a credit and a half. Just to give you an idea, of those 18 students, because one of them isn't in our district, only 5 of them were within a half a credit. So 13 students would not have been able to walk had we not changed that. So that's awesome to have those kids be able to walk and graduate. And then last but not least, here's a breakdown of all the credits that were earned. As you can see, we have a wonderful number of 186.5 credits. I broke them down into each content area for you. The 9th grade transition, because they're all elective credits, they would be in your electives. So each class is worth a half a credit. If my math is correct, we passed 373 classes during summer school. You're probably wondering what was the total number of credits possible. The total number possible was about 236.5 credit for a 79% success rate. And I will open it up to you if you have any questions for me.
Okay, any questions for Spencer? Aaron?
So in terms of the, how expedited a class is in summer school, is it like correct to think that typically a class that is done in 3 weeks in summer school would otherwise be stretched out over an entire quarter at the high school?
Correct, yep.
So how do people, like how do teachers and students get through so much curriculum in 3 weeks versus the standard quarter timeline?
Great question. So when our teachers take a look at what they need to teach during summer school, they look at the standards that need to be assessed, or what students need to show proficiency on. During the regular school year or during a regular quarter, you may have different projects or different enrichment activities that may be offered, which we would take some of those out to just hit the standards. The classes are slightly longer in summer school during those 3 weeks, but not a great deal.
Thank you.
Sure. Obviously, the summer school is usually targeted towards students to make up credits. Is the summer school open to students who, instead of making up credits, are trying to get ahead of the game on it, or be more preventive in case something should happen?
Because of our size of students that need those credits to graduate, that need to recover that many credits, we don't have a ton of room for students to get ahead of the game. We did have a couple students that just needed to get back to their 2 credit cushion. But typically we have so many students that need the credit recovery that it's very limited.
Do we have students inquiring about being able to take summer school even though they're not required to?
That is a question at the high school that they would ask. I have not heard that question. Students are pretty excited to get out the door for summer and get to work. So I have not heard that question, but the counselors here may have.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Winicky. If you could speak a bit more to the 275 in that 1 through 8 category.
Yeah.
And what, obviously our younger students, are they in jeopardy of not advancing to 4th grade, for example, or what is the target service indicate?
Great question. So first of all, our enrollment numbers all depend on our staffing, right? We have to have enough staff to be able to accommodate the needs of all of our students. And then we work with our building administrators on which target groups to target for the summer school programming. During that time, we typically have bridged the gap and tried to get students from maybe right below that showing proficiency to get them over the hill to try to prevent the summer slide. We've also done where we target the lower group, the lower educational group that may need more support to, again, prevent that summer slide. But however many we do enroll, it depends on our staffing. But that's what we look at, is to try to bridge the gap of those skills in math and reading and science.
Spencer?
Yeah.
So of those 275 Matt's talking about, how many of those are actually special ed students? Because I know like my daughter, we put her in this summer just to keep her acclimated with the school setting.
So that all depends on, like I had said, we have extended school year. We also have EDGE targeted services. Students will be referred for the different entities depending, or the different programs depending on what their need is and what their ability is, right? So our extended school year, they have a criteria, and then we also kind of look at, you know, where we need to bridge those gaps. And some special education students fall into that. Some general education students fall into that. Some EL students, English learner students, fall into that. It just depends on the abilities that they're that we're working on.
Any further questions for Spencer?
One last question, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. Historically, how does this number compare to where the trend has been for enrollment?
Great question. I thought of that question on my drive over. I will get that answer for you and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
2.0, approval of agendas, consent and main.
I move approval of the consent and main agenda.
Second?
Motion by Adam, second by Matt to approve the consent and main agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3.0, approval of minutes.
I move the approval of the minutes for June 18th, regular school board meeting, and to also accept the committee minutes that were included with our agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Steve, second by Aaron to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 4.0, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda items.
Motion by Adam,
Second.
second by Aaron. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.0, main agenda, monthly financial overview for Dave.
You should have the revenues and expenditures report through the end of the fiscal year through June 30th. This is an unaudited report, so there will be adjustments as we move along in the audit process. Excuse me. As you can see, our revenue at this point is just over 98%, so we're getting pretty close to where our budget was at. Our expenditures are at almost 96%, so those will also get adjusted. The big adjustments should already be in here, so it's more just late bills, that type of things that we may have not received by the end of the year that will get charged back into this year. So overall, we're coming out right about where we expected, and we'll have another report for you once we get further down the road. Any questions?
Any questions for Dave? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 5.2, approved tax abatement resolution number 1.
I move approval of tax abatement resolution number 1.
I'll second the motion, Steve.
Motion by Adam, second by Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, it's a roll call vote.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Resolution passes. 5.3, approve tax abatement resolution number 2.
I move approval, Steve.
Second?
Motion by Steve, second by Matt to approve resolution number 2. Any discussion? Resolution? Aye.
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 Resolution passes. 5.4, approve media request procedures, practices, and guidance.
So this was put together as process, procedures, and guidance for media in the district. I do know that you have received information from the Globe that they have some concerns with that, and I actually had a very good conversation with the editor about a half hour before the meeting, or roughly. Anyway, her concerns are very, what I call, warranted on her part. From our perspective, we've had a very good working relationship with the Globe over the years, and would like to continue that. So we want to make sure we gather her input, which I've asked her to send to me, and look to see how we might be able to address a few of the areas she has concerns. The biggest thing, I don't see how they've functioned change drastically. It may be more in the interview process, but again, I want to make sure that they have provide input and we can look at this guidance and practice. I want to make sure everybody understands this isn't policy. This is the process, procedure, and guidance that we would utilize when dealing with it. Our issues with the media have not necessarily been what I call the local media. It really has been when we've had either freelance or state or national media that have garnered attention to Worthington. So we want to make sure it's workable for our local media. And so with that, I would recommend tonight that you delay any action until August, until we can get her, I can get her input and we can have conversations and make any adjustments that we need to make on this. The instructional committee did review this. They didn't see at the time any issues related to it, and we're recommending approval, but I would prefer you delay it so we can get further input and work on our collaborative effort and relationship with the local media.
Steve?
I think it's good for us to work out any concerns that they may have. In reading through this initially, and then after some conversation with Julie, and then reading through it again, I didn't really see anything that I felt was wrong with our guidance or procedures and practices. But what I did find is that it's open to some interpretation, and obviously we're thinking of it one way. They're reading it and thinking of it from a different perspective. So I think it's good for us to get clarification so that they have an understanding of what our intent is and how we're going to manage this. And I think that's a good way to go. If we need to add a little clarification language in here to spell out a little clearer, we can always still do that in the next go around. But I think actually as it goes and what we've been doing is what we're planning on continuing to do. And if we need to be a little bit more wordy with it to make sure it's a little clearer, then I think that's something positive we can do and move it forward. So at this point, I would table this action on the media request procedures, practices, and guidance until our August meeting.
They really don't need a motion, we just need to not act, right? We don't need a motion if we're not going to act on it.
Yeah, I support taking this back to the drafting board and including stakeholders in the conversation. I think another option would be to also present this to the communications committee. So there are a couple of board members on that committee as well as district-wide staff. And I feel like in order to ensure that the application of this document is user-friendly for the administration, the stakeholders, media, as well as the staff, and understanding what they are advised to do, what they're not advised to do. I think maybe circulating this draft to the communications committee might also be a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, was the Communications Committee engaged in the creation of this procedure?
No.
Mr. Chairman, what was the decision to create this procedure now after functioning without one?
It's really talking about protecting our students and our staff and following a process. It's been kind of open to some extent, and it's really about creating that safe environment that exists. And we do have a few students that are not allowed to be photographed or interviewed, those type of things. So we want to ensure we follow that request of those parents. And so over the last few years, we've had, well, actually the last 10, you can count on state and federal or national news. We've had at least one request, if not multiple requests, for different things. So it's trying to create a standard that we can follow.
And I understand it's not a policy, but I don't like adding more policies, and this is a procedure that I understand the intent, and I totally support the student-related information part of it, but as an individual that works in the media and looks at opportunities to put our students out in front in a positive way, if there's several steps that I have to go through to do that, I'm going to just be inclined to not do it, because so much of it happens on an instant reaction of the contest is today, I got their phone number, I'd like to put them on the radio. And so I understand that the intent is to protect our student, which I understand. I also understand the intent is outside the area media, but I think the procedure has to be dripping with common sense and simplicity so we don't complicate it to the point where we lose our local effective coverage.
Okay. You'll have to take those points into consideration when they come up with a final draft, how to word this media request procedure, so.
Chair? Maybe I'd add with Matt's thoughts on that. When students are performing at a football game, basketball game, or other places like that, I would imagine that them being out in public, I don't know how our legal requirements are for them to be interviewed and things like that. So maybe what we need to do too is maybe just check a little bit and see where our liability and limits stop and where it becomes the individual's decision or parent's decision or whatever to be able to do those types of things. Because if we're open to the public to attend a function, where does that line get drawn? If they're called up at home by somebody asking them questions for a story, where does it go from there? I don't know if we have any legal obligation or right to say, somebody can't contact someone at home. When they're on the school property or coming into our school to interview them, things are a little bit different, but maybe we just need to have a little bit more clarification on that end of it, when that starts and when it stops and what restrictions there may or may not be for that kind of coverage, as Matt had mentioned. So, I think that's some of the stuff that it's written in there. It sounds kind of like they do have to do it, but I don't know if we actually are planning on doing that or if we have the right to do that. And maybe that's something we need to, clarify a little bit before we look at it again.
Okay, any further discussion about this item? Will be no action tonight. Hopefully there'll be one in August they're shooting for, or whenever it's ready. But we currently do have a procedure in place now. We don't have one.
No.
I didn't know the current situation. We don't have an actual procedure right now in place?
No.
You don't, okay.
No.
So this is something new.
But I do agree, I think we should have some guidance and some process on how we handle these types of things and how we're doing it. I think it's just that we need to be a little bit more extensive on spelling it out, how we're handling it or how we're doing it. And when we put it in there, so it's clear to those who are trying to access students and staff, and for the students and staff, as we said earlier, so that they know what the practice and policy, or not policy, but practice and, that we're doing and how we're handling it, so that they know, what to do if they're approached.
Aaron?
The current draft mentions an online form on the district website for media to submit if they're interested in speaking to a student or staff member. And I didn't see it online now, which would make sense if this policy isn't yet passed. But it'd be nice if that could be inserted or as an enclosure with the next draft, just so we kind of have a sense of what it will look like for the media on the front end when they submit that request.
Okay, we will wait for the next presentation of what they developed for practice and guidance. Okay, we'll move on to 5.5, approve long-term facility maintenance plan. This is for,
This was presented to the Operations Committee, and of course, we have to, by requirement, submit a 10-year plan. The first year or two are fairly accurate. After that, it's kind of a best guesstimate of where we're at. And so that's what was presented, and there was recommendation for approval.
I move to approve the long-term facilities maintenance plan.
okay, motion by Aaron,
Second?
second by Steve, to approve the long-term facility maintenance plan. Any discussion? This went through the operations, you said?
Correct.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.6, student handbook changes.
So the student handbook changes were presented to the instructional committee. They went through. There's really not a lot of what I call major changes. It's all adjustments, and of course, anything that was related to legal changes that were put into the documents. The instructional committee was recommending approval.
I make a motion to approve the handbooks.
Motion by Steve,
Second?
second by Matt, to approve the student handbook changes. Any discussion?
Were these changes sent to the entire board?
Pardon me?
Were the changes or draft handbooks that we're voting on tonight sent to the entire board?
No, I think they were just the instructional.
I would like the opportunity to review them before I vote on the handbooks, so there we can, I would make an amended motion to table the vote until the handbooks can be circulated to the entire board.
Has anybody else read it besides the committee? It was instructional.
I was not at the meeting and did not see it.
Lori's not here.
And Tom was not here.
Yeah. So when do these have to be approved technically?
Well, you can do it in August if you want, but you have Aaron who made a amendment to the motion.
Right, but I mean, we don't have to have it now, though.
You could wait a month, yeah.
Okay, so the amendment is to
You-
delay it a month.
Yeah. So you need a second to our
Did we have,
amendment.
did we have a motion first? We did. Right, okay, so the amendment, we have to have a second for the amendment.
I'll second it.
Okay, the amendment's been made and seconded, so we'll vote. Any discussion?
Vote on the amendment.
Vote on the amendment first. Any further discussion to delay it till August? All those in favor of the amended motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carry, or amendment carries. Now we'll go to the amended motion, which delays it till August, the student handbook, approving the student handbook changes. Any discussion on the motion, the amended motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll act on it in August, the August meeting. 5.7, approve Round Lakes Brewster Collaborative Agreement for middle school activities. 5.7.
So the superintendent called me and asked if we would be willing to reconsider. A year ago, you did approve allowing that to occur. And then based on that, I presented to the instructional committee, who again is recommending that you approve a collaborative agreement for the 7th and 8th grade activities. And I did send it to Mr. Hassing, and he sent it to their school attorney, and they had a recommendation. So he did make an adjustment to it, which I'm perfectly fine and think it's good. It just talks about the two athletic directors working together, so that would be A, on the allocations of cost and how the costs are on a per participant basis, which is how we do it anyway. It's just fair, however many participants based on the total number is how it gets, the costs get divided up. And the second one was related to special education classes or students, and we allow them to participate based on their IEPs, and they must be making satisfactory progress to participate. So it was a good addition and fits well, and the recommendation, of course, would be to approve that.
Okay, we have a motion?
No.
No, we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Aaron. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a question as to if it pertains to 7th and 8th grade students, why does the language go through 12th grade?
I think it's just part of the document. They probably should just say 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, because they don't have 12th grade students.
Right, so I would suggest we have it specific, since that's what it is.
I would amend my motion, if it's acceptable to Aaron, to change the agreement to read 7th through 8th grade instead of 7th through 12th within the document.
I'll second that amended motion.
Okay, we'll have amended motion to change it to 7-8 from 7-12. We have a motion and a second to the amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. We'll go to the main motion, which has been amended to 7th and 8th grade.
Correct.
Any discussion? We've done this in the past, correct? Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.8, approve organizational charts. This was.
This was presented to the Operations Committee. They reviewed it. There's not really any major changes from a year ago. And this will be probably part of your work session conversation as you begin to plan for the future and look at how you want the structure to be, a year from now or 2 years from now. You potentially will look to make adjustments or changes in the organizational structure after this year or another year down the road. So anyway, there were a few minor changes made, but nothing major. A few boxes removed or things based on what currently was happening or will be happening this next school year. So the Operations Committee was recommending approval.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the organizational charts.
Motion by Adam,
Second, Steve.
second by Steve, to approve the organizational charts. Excuse me. Any discussion? Excuse me. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.9, approve second reading of policy 507, corporal punishment and proneness restraint.
I believe this was presented to the instructional committee, and again, the changes were related to legislative changes. We checked it against the existing policy, and again, most of these are pretty much related to what occurred in legislation. So the recommendation was approval from the committee.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'd approve the second reading of policy 507.
Motion by Adam.
I'll second. Steve.
Second by Steve to approve second reading of policy 507. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.10, discuss approve first reading of policies 507.5.
So policy,
School resource officer.
Policy 507 is not a required policy, and the board asked that I send it to the police chief to review, and his statement was related to it basically follows current legislation, and that's what the policy actually says. So it follows, substantially reflects statutory requirements, and it's board determination if you want to have this policy or not. And at this point, the committee did recommend approval.
Policy 507, 507.5, it's a new policy then?
Correct.
It's a new policy. Was this requested by, or? Yes.
It had a lot to do with legislative action and the turmoil around a lot of schools pulled their resource officers during COVID and during that time, or not, I shouldn't say COVID, after the legislative session over a year ago because of what they put in and the concerns for liability. Now they've adjusted that. So many schools have put their school resource officers back in place, and this policy reflects the legislation.
I would move approval of the first reading of policy 507.5.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Aaron to approve the first reading of policy 507.5. Any discussion?
Sure.
Steve?
I think it's, even though it's not that we have to have it, I think it's a good idea for us to have it. It goes well with policy 507. And I think it also is easier to find and reference that information if we need it than to try and go dig through the Minnesota statutes to find all those statute numbers and how they interrelate and stuff. So I think it's good just as a reference tool for us to not have to go in and look it up. And if somebody's trying to find it, refresh their memory, it's easy for them to find. So I think it's good to have it in our policies for that reason.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a question on the training portion of it. I mean, that, to me, is the biggest part, that the chief has to have the agreement with that section.
And
And he was,
they do that, yeah.
Any further discussion on policy 507.5?
and it was verbatim policy taken, and
From MSBA's model, yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.11, approve the revised vacation schedule.
So we presented this, I can't remember what committee.
Operations.
Operations Committee. When we built the one that you approved a couple months ago, we built it off the MSEA contract, not what was really the district-wide one that you had approved 8 months earlier than that. So when we found the error, we went back and reworked it because some employees were actually losing vacation, and that was not the intent of what was going on. It was to help encourage early on and get them vacation time earlier on, and not wait so many years to get vacation. Plus, where the error really happened was our long-term employees would have lost days, and we don't want to do that. So the Operations Committee is recommending approval of this vacation schedule.
So move, Steve.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Aaron. How many individuals did this affect?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Several or
A handful.
handful? And this would get them back into a fair.
Right, it matches more closely with the one that was approved last August.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.12, approve salary and benefits increase for human resource assistant.
So the recommended action is to approve the salary and benefit increase for the human resource assistants for 24 through 26. The increase was 6.45% for the first year, 4.42 for a total 11.15 over the 2 years.
I'd move approval of the salary and benefits increase for the human resources assistant.
Second?
Motion by Steve, second by Matt to approve the human resource assistant salary increase. This is one individual or?
Yes.
One individual. Okay. Any discussion?
Chair?
Steve?
Just to point out that those percentages were not just a salary increase. It did include benefit costs to the district, such as their retirement, their days off, their insurance, those types of things too. So the percentages are not just a salary increase, but it's all the costs for that employee for the years.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go on to reports. John, superintendent report.
So just a couple quick items. One is negotiations, just to give you, we did meet yesterday with the custodians and paras. I would tell you that most of the language items are resolved with the custodians. There's not a great deal left. And we're probably within 1% of trying to get it settled. But that's kind of where it's at. The difference is about 1%. With the pairs, we still have a number of language items. I shouldn't say a number. We managed to get through a number, but there's still quite a few language items to discuss and address. And we're probably about 5% difference right now compared to the miles we were apart previously. So a little closer, but next meeting for the secretaries will be August, I think it's 19th, along with the paras, and we don't have another date for the custodians yet. The last item is I am not able to make the radio station in the morning at 7 a.m. with Mr. Woodbloom and his entourage at the radio station. Is anybody interested in doing that? Otherwise, it'll be a phone call or I'll twist Mr. Noble's arm.
I'll do it again, if Matt doesn't mind having me.
Oh, it was great. You're always welcome.
I'll be there at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
That's it.
So that's it. Instructional committee report.
Question, Mr. Fay, Mr. Chairman. Record rain impact any buildings, anything from a negative standpoint?
Not really. We did fared very well.
How was this room here?
This room's fine. It's over there.
Orchestra,
How did that fare, the orchestra and choir area?
not well.
Not well?
We've had two instances so far this year, but
Do we have a solution to that problem? It's been 4 or 5 years or whatever, 6 years. I've lost count of how many years we've been dealing with this now. Are we going to take some kind of plan to take some kind of action to find a way to,
we have another hopeful solution, but we have to do a little investigating.
okay,
Just waiting for the people we need to be able to come take a look.
good.
So,
Good.
no
I
promises.
know for a while there we got by and didn't have any problems, and then all of a sudden it shows up again. So I was kind of hoping it self-corrected, but it appears it hasn't. I think it's time for us to do something to fix it and correct it so I don't have to go through that.
Last one was a little more obvious, and we think we have a potential solution, but we're not sure yet. It may end up digging a hole in the parking lot, but we'll see.
So that's what we got to do.
Did the rain delay the paving project at the school?
No, it won't affect that.
Okay, instructional committee. Or he's not here.
And Tom's not here.
Tom's not here. Who else is?
That's it.
Matt's on
I
there.
was not in attendance, Mr. Chairman.
You have nothing to report?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Operations Committee.
Nothing that we haven't already discussed.
Okay, any other reports? Other business? 8.0 Future Business Board Work Session. I believe we have it scheduled for August 29th at noon to 2 o'clock. To 2 p.m. on August 29th is a scheduled board work session.
And that will be in the district office conference room. So
I think either tonight or at our August school board meeting, we should discuss as a board what we want the scope of this work session to be, because I think there's going to be a lot that we could discuss, but with only 2 hours, we should be very intentional about how we want to use our time.
Okay.
I think discuss it at our August meeting, then we'll know more about what happens with the election and what we gotta talk about with that or not talk about.
Okay, we'll define that at the August meeting. Any further business?
Just, Mr. Chairman, one last question to Mr. Landgard regarding hiring and filling of positions prior to the school year.
we're getting some of them filled. We're still in need of special ed, and the high school has a couple positions, and middle school, I believe, has a couple positions. Prairie and intermediate are getting close.
Is there a need to discuss any more bonuses or any other incentive packages?
Not right now.
Okay, we'll adjourn the regular meeting.